Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Tokian back with a brand new MPL Season 1 Division 2 video for you all. As it is Monday, so we have another battle going up on the channel for you all, so thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate the support. It is week 3 now, and we are going up against the Golden State Wartortles coached by Frosty. Frosty is a very quality battler from what I've seen from him, and he drafted a fantastic team. This team was a headache for me to build for. He's currently 2-0, so he's sitting on a small high horse. Not that big of a high horse, it is only 2-0, but still, he's doing well, and he drafted a fantastic team. So I definitely wanted to spend adequate time building this team, which I think I did, and I felt good about our game plan going into this one. But yeah, his team was an absolute headache to build for. Let's quickly recap his team, then we'll recap my team, and then we'll get into the battle. I hope you guys are fine with that. If you want team builders, just say in the comment section below that you'd rather me just do a team builder, but I think for smaller channels, team builders aren't the best, as I just don't think people really want to tune into a team. They'd rather just see battles on a smaller channel. Once you start to get into maybe some of those bigger leagues, that's when team builders become a little bit more exciting. But anyways though, Frosty's team is going to be Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele is going to be one of the most controversial Pokemon. Sorry, I got an itch right on my shoulder. But yeah, Tapu Lele is going to be one of the most controversial Pokemon since Gen 7 has started. When it comes to League format, a lot of people thought Tapu Lele was going to be too good in League format, especially with its Psychic Terrain and just boosting it to an absurd stat, and its typing is just so good offensively because it disallows a lot of dark types to switch into it unless you're like a Poison Dark or something, because they will be weak to its also Berry stab. So you can't Pursue Trap it, it's not weak to Dark. And even bringing in the Dark type is kind of scary. Even though Dark is usually immune to Psychic, it's just really hard for you to accomplish. So my opponent was able to snag Tapu Lele, and that already makes this pretty scary just by that alone. But then they were able to pair it up with one of the most beastly Pokemon they possibly could have got. And I initially was a little skeptical of them snagging this so early, but then I looked back at their first pick and I was like, oh, makes sense. But yeah, they went and snagged Mega Alakazam to pair with Tapu Lele. That is amazing little start to a core there. Well, just an offensive monster that they already have with those two there, as they both are extremely formidable on their special attack stat. They both benefit from that Psychic Terrain. This allows priority into both of these two Pokemon, which both really dislike priority. Mega Alakazam being very frail, and Tapu Lele really not going to be bullet punched. So this is a lethal combination together. Definitely a quality snag on my opponent's part. The rest of their team is going to be Garchomp, Magnezone, Heracross, Mantine, Alolan Miltank, Crobat, Spiritomb, and Frostlass. So yeah, just a very scary team. Garchomp's going to be their Z Pokemon. They're also able to get Garchomp in the 3rd round. Garchomp in the 3rd round. What were you people doing not snagging Garchomp? Oh my god, I have no clue how Garchomp fell to the 3rd round. But yeah, my opponent was able to snag a very solid team. It has Garchomp to fill a lot of holes and to just be a solid rocker. Like, Garchomp is able to do so much for this team. Magnezone is able to magnet pull and trap a lot of Pokemon, and then hidden power, a lot of Steel types, hidden power fire them. That's so good for Tapu Lele. And for Mega Alakazam too, because Steel is one of the few typings that can resist its Psychic Stab and maybe dish back a powerful hit. Heracross is scary. Mantine's a special defensive monster, especially with the boost that it got. Or was it Mantine? I think it was. I don't know if it was its evolved form or not. Anyways though, then Alolan is a solid Pursuit Trapper, which is also nice for this team, as some bulky Psychic types can be a little annoying, even though Lele and Alakazam get Shadow Ball coverage. It could be a little annoying, so Alolan a quality Pursuit Trapper for this team. Crobat's extremely scary, quality defogger, just able to do so much, and Miltank is a solid defensive wall that's also able to set up rocks, and it has reliable recovery, unlike a lot of this team. So does Crobat, but yeah, a lot of this team doesn't have reliable recovery, so Miltank was a solid snag. And then yeah, just Frostlass to maybe be at an annoying lead and maybe go for a Destiny Bond and take out a threat from the start, and Spiritomb to patch up some holes. I'm not a big fan of the Spiritomb. And that might be the reason why this week, for this next week, my opponent dropped Spiritomb and snagged up Druddigon. But for this exact battle, they did have Spiritomb. So anyways though, we're going to go over their team starting now. And yeah, I was extremely scared of this team. I didn't know what exactly there were so many different things my opponent could bring. I didn't go into great detail on the sets for my opponent. That obviously these sets would be much more in depth of the actual sets my opponent bought, but I just wanted to quickly go over them. And I just thought some type of standard Alakazam with just coverage for pretty much everything. Psychic to just hit extremely hard in Psychic terrain. Shadow Ball to cover my Reuniclus. Energy Ball to cover Tapu Lele, as a very bulky, especially defensive Tapu Lele. It can be a little bit annoying, but Energy Ball to cover that can do a lot of damage to Tapu Fini. To my Tapu Fini. I don't know if I just said it was Lele. Yeah, to my Tapu Fini, Energy Ball can do a lot of damage to it. And then Hidden Power Fire to round out this, because with Psychic Terrain I can't go for a Bullet Punch, but that would actually, if I was fully adamant invested, that could take out Alakazam. So Hidden Power Fire to not be able to be Bullet Punched and to take out Scissor. So that's kind of what I was thinking with Alakazam. Moving right along to Lele, I was thinking maybe like a Life Orb Lele just to do maximum damage. I thought my opponent would, I don't really have switch-ins to Alakazam or Tapu Lele. Fini can kind of switch in depending on what set my opponent is, and depending on if my opponent goes for Energy Ball predictions on me switching in Fini. They can always go for predictions with that, so that was pretty scary. So I didn't really have switch-ins to these two, so I thought my opponent would heavily depend on these two for offensive pressure in this game, and then go a little bit more defensive with the rest of the Pokemon, but also still a decent amount offensive, but more defense with the rest of the team. But yeah, another Pokemon with Psychic to just dish out enormous damage. My only Dark type is going to be Sneasel, which obviously doesn't want to switch in on either of these two Pokemon, as Alakazam can be running Dazzling Gleam over one of these moves. I thought these moves looked a little bit better than Dazzling Gleam, but Sneasel obviously still doesn't want to switch in on an Energy Ball or any of that, and Sneasel is actually slower than Alakazam, so unless I'm like Sash, it's definitely not a switch in any scenario. So another Pokemon with Psychic, Moonblast for the secondary stab, and Energy Ball for Tapu Fini. And then the fourth slot was kind of a toss-up. I was thinking maybe Taunt just to prevent any like rocks or anything I might try to go for, or any recovery maybe with my Reuniclus, but this can obviously also be Shadow Ball. It can definitely just be Shadow Ball too. So I was thinking maybe also Shadow Ball, but I was thinking maybe Taunt also, or maybe no Energy Ball and just Shadow Ball Taunt. So a lot of different options for my opponent here, but yeah, maybe Shadow Ball just so that my opponent can hit that Reuniclus art, as Reuniclus is one of the only things that can be a little bit of annoyance to these two on my team. Komala cannot, even with an Assault Vest, Komala is actually 2-hit KO'd in Psychic terrain by Psychic from Alakazam and Lele. So yeah, and that's like one of my main special defensive walls, so I really didn't have any anything to really bring in on these two. So I thought this team would be really centered around these two kind of running through my team. Next is going to be that Garchomp. It is my opponent's Z Pokemon. I wasn't sure they'd bring the Groundium Z, but it's always best to prep for it, as these Z moves can take out one Pokemon that you really need in order to win the game. I was thinking I could play around the Groundium Z a little bit though with Landorus. Landorus, obviously, it's a decent switch into Chomp, as Chomp usually doesn't have any ice coverage or anything to really hit Landorus Therian with. And it's also floating, obviously, because of its flying typing, so it can dodge the Groundium Z. So I was thinking my opponent would go for more of a defensive Garchomp because of that, and then maybe just go Stealth Rocks, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Fire Blast. Fire Blast is just kind of filler, as I was thinking maybe for the Scissors, my opponent doesn't have a really solid way. Like Earthquake's going to do solid neutral damage, but it's not the best. So I was thinking maybe Fire Blast for my Sneasel, maybe try to catch me off guard if I thought Sneasel was a switch into Garchomp, but this can be a lot of different moves. I wasn't really sure exactly what that'd be, but pretty much what I was thinking with Garchomp. Next we have Magnezone, and Magnezone I was thinking would certainly be brought. I thought Magnezone was a must bring because Scissor can do some damage. Once Psychic Terrain wasn't up, I can start to maybe fire off some Bullet Punches. If I get my Fini in, and we have and I somehow have the Misty Terrain up other than the Psychic Terrain, I can fire off those powerful Bullet Punches. I just thought Scissor could do a lot in this game, so I thought my opponent would definitely bring Magnum Pull Magnezone so that they could trap it and hit it with an HP Fire, and if it was Specs, that would ensure that no matter what, it gets rid of us. But I just thought Specs didn't look bad overall. Volt Switch off a lot of my Pokemon. I do have a Alolan Raichu, but I didn't like its matchup in this one, and so I thought my opponent would definitely bring it. Don't really have anything to switch into a Volt Switch, as my opponent could obviously also go with HP Ice, but That would be, and they can also just go for flash cannons on a predicted Landorus switch in, and if it was choice specs, especially with this special attack investment, that would do so much to my Landorus. So I thought Magnet Zone was a must bring, and I thought Hidden Power Fire could trap my Scissor, do a lot to it, and yeah, just a solid Pokemon that I thought could do a lot in this matchup. And next, we do have the Pursuit trapping Alolan Muck. I was thinking my opponent might bring like an Assault Vest set so that they could still be bulky on the special offensive side, but still just bulky overall. And yeah, just something like knockoff to knockoff items. I really needed my items in this one. Items were something that I really needed. And yeah, Alolan Muck really did scare me a lot in this one. It probably scared me more than anything else other than Lele and Alakazam. It probably scared me the most because of the fact that, one, it can Pursuit trap my Reuniclus, and even with a lot of investment, I think even full defense investment, Muck still did like 90% to my Reuniclus if I switched out on a Pursuit. So Muck was really scary from a Pursuit trapping perspective. It was really scary from the fact that it can run Fire Blast. It does get Fire Blast, doesn't get Fire Punch, which is really nice, so it does have to run Fire Blast, which you'll see in the game does matter. But sorry, I just spoiled that. I didn't mean to spoil that. Oh god. Anyways, though, yeah, Fire Blast to maybe hit my Scissor. Knockoff to knockoff items, as I definitely needed my items. Pursuit Trap to Pursuit Trap my team, and then Poison Jab for stab and for coverage for the Tapu Fini. And yeah, just a Assault Vest to be bulky on the special end, but still be able to put a lot of investment into HP so that you're still bulky on the defensive end also, but still a lot of investment in attack to hit as hard as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking with Muck. Really scary. And last but not least, I was thinking that Miltank would be brought as maybe a second rocker, depending on if Garchomp was a rocker or not. Maybe not, but maybe just a second rocker. Also with Toxic to maybe Toxic my Reuniclus, Milk Drink for reliable recovery, and then just Body Slam. My opponent may also just bring Thunder Wave here. Thunder Wave is obviously also an option on this that I definitely saw as an option. My best bet for taking out Miltank was just like my Mind Shell, somehow getting a high jump kick on it. Didn't really have the best matchup versus Miltank, but I knew it'd be brought. I knew Miltank had a solid matchup and it'd be brought. So I made sure to bring Mind Shell, even though it didn't have the best matchup overall. So unless I scarfed it, which I wasn't really interested in doing. So as I ran Scarf on a different Pokemon, so yeah, I thought Miltank would definitely be brought, and I thought it could really be a headache too on a lot of switch-ins, especially on my Landorus. So yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking. Miltank can obviously not run Body Slam too, and it can run, does it get Ice Punch? I think it does. Yeah, I can also run Ice Punch for my Landorus, which is also pretty scary. So just a lot of things that I have to be wary of. Ice Punch on Miltank, Pursuit trapping my Reuniclus with this Muck, and the Fire Blast that it gets. Getting trapped in by Magnet Pull on my Scissor with Magnet Zone. The Z move on Garchomp is just going to do ridiculous damage to anything, and then just two powerful Pokemon in Psychic Terrain. You can kind of see why I was so like kind of nervous, honestly, to play against this team. Is it's so threatening, just such a well drafted team, and definitely I wasn't really sure exactly what to expect going into the match. I just knew that I'd have to kind of scout around, figure out exactly what I'd need to do in this game. Once I saw exactly what coverage that these two had, once I saw what coverage these two had or exactly what item they had, I can maybe play around them a little better, and then just kind of trying to slowly whittle down the rest of my opponent's threats. And just making sure I don't get trapped with my Scissor or Pursuit trapped with my Reuniclus throughout the game. So that was pretty much my mindset going into the game. We're going to hop right into my team now, and my team is going to be, first and foremost, I saw, alright, my opponent has those two very threatening special attackers in Tapu Lele and Alakazam. So I need something that can actually stop that. As I said, Komala can't stop that. I really don't have the best special defensive wall, which is kind of a flaw in my draft. But I really don't think any special defensive wall would have had the best matchup against these two. So what exactly I was thinking was I really don't have an answer. So the best I can do is Light Clay with double screens. I said this in my post-draft analysis that Light Clay with double screens would be a set that I would eventually bring, and we're already bringing it here on week 3. So I'm glad that we're seeing the versatility of Tapu Fini early on. As last week I brought the spec set, which did a lot of work, and this week we're bringing Light Clay, and I do think this is probably the most crucial member of this team going into this game, because I need to make sure that I get up a light screen early on in the match so that the Light Clay makes its longevity longer, as Light Clay allows screens to last 8 turns instead of 5, so that's really nice, and that'll let us play around the very powerful special attackers on my opponent's team a lot better. So I like the idea of that. So we went with Reflect, Light Screen, Moonblast just for some stab for so that we're not too passive. I definitely wanted to have something to dish out damage, and then Calm Mind just so that we can even maybe Calm Mind up and do even a decent amount of damage to my opponent's Pokemon if I get a few Calm Minds up and maybe Muck's gone, and yeah, maybe we can get into a good position where we can start hitting, going for a lot of Calm Minds and really start doing a lot of damage. I played a practice game against my friend Kyle for this exact matchup. I really appreciate you doing that, Kyle. Shoutouts to you. And he had a, what's it, a Life Orb Lele? I don't know what set of Lele he had, but he had Sub and Calm Mind, and I think it was the Leftovers one maybe. He had Sub and Calm Mind, and he was just like trying to Calm Mind up on my Finny and take it out. I was able to get his Tapu Lele down to a good enough amount of health to when Finny finally fell, because he just stalled out, kind of pretty much stalled out the light screen, and then was able to take out my Finny. But I was able to get Lele down to an amount of health to where Landorus was able to take it out with an Earthquake after that, and then I was able to still win that game. So I definitely wanted Calm Mind just so that I could play the Calm Mind game with Lele in case it ended up being that set. So that practice match actually really did help. On the EV spread, I wanted to still be bulky in defense, so I went with 76 in defense. 180 in special attack allowed me to still 3-hit KO a few Pokemons. That allowed me to still KO Garchomp with the Moonblast. Depending on what type of set it is, if it was a Solvest or something, depending on what type of investment, if it was just a standard Garchomp, I was able to KO it with the Moonblast. Moonblast would be a 3-hit KO on a low and Muck. And yeah, I just went full special defense investment just so that I could take those attacks, those powerful special attacks as well as possible, because I knew I'd have to end up switching in on Lele sometime and just hope that my opponent didn't go for Energy Ball, and maybe even switching on Alakazam as well. But I didn't really want to switch this Pokemon in on Alakazam, kind of just had to let some drop or switch in Reuniclus once it came to Mega Alakazam. So I didn't go with any speed investment, didn't see it as necessary. And yeah, just trying to be bulky on the defense still, as my opponent does have some threatening attacking Pokemon as well, not just special attackers, as they do have the Garchomp, they do have the Alolan Muck, and yeah, so I was very proud of the set. I think it's solid, as solid as it could be. Next is going to be another Scarf Landorus, and we have literally brought Scarf Landorus every week so far, which is pretty wild. That's why I didn't feel the best about giving it the Z Crystal, and I said in my post-draft recap as well that even though I was giving it the Z Crystal, I just didn't think any other Pokemon on my team really had the best. I didn't think really anything else would really benefit from the Z Crystal better much at all. Who knows if I'll end up using it later in the season. I probably will, but for now, Scarf Landorus was just too... It's so good, and I definitely need it in this game, because Scarf Landorus is going to be my only Pokemon that can outspeed and KO Mega Alakazam. I obviously could have put the Scarf on Sneasel as well, but I didn't like the idea of that. I really didn't like the idea of Scarf, and I'll get more into that later. But yeah, the only Pokemon I really wanted to Scarf was Landorus, as I thought Landorus could not only benefit from being Scarf because of the Mega Alakazam and being able to OHKO it, but also because I thought a Scarf on it would be solid for a lot of other Pokemon, in particular Lele, Garchomp, just a lot of other Pokemon that having the Scarf on it I thought would still be a solid, choice. So the moveset, we obviously Intimidate, and then on the moveset we went with Earthquake for stab, and just to hit a lot of things really hard. Knockoff because in case... well, obviously, knockoff's just good coverage, and it's able to knock off some important items, maybe for my opponent's team and everything. But as well, if my opponent put any bulk into their Alakazam, I actually needed to go for knockoff instead of U-turn. U-turn was a very slight KO on the standard Mega Alakazam. A very slight OHKO. It definitely was. It was a guaranteed OHKO on the standard Mega Alakazam, but it barely got the OHKO. and knock off Insured that Oko, no matter how much both my opponent kind of tried to go with, unless they did something really crazy, one with like a bold Mega Alakazam. But we're not going that heat here in this league, at least I don't think so. And yeah, then just Stealth Rock so that we can get those rocks up. 196 plus a Jolly Nature was the only way I could outspeed Mega Alakazam, which I certainly wanted to do with this Scarf, so that is what I prioritized doing by putting that investment in there. 60 just in case some random HP Isis came out, just hoping that I can maybe live them, as I definitely wanted still full investment in attack with the Jolly Nature. I wanted to be able to still hit as hard as possible because I really needed to hit as hard as possible. So that's what I just pretty much dumped the rest of the EVs into special defense and hope that if any random HP Ices or anything came out, I could hopefully live those. That's pretty much Landorus. Landorus is easily the second most crucial member of this team, and it's why I put it right on the team right after Finny. I knew right after Tapu Jenny, I knew I was going to need it. So LT, the Landorus Therian, LT standing for LaDainian Tomlinson. He recently got into the Hall of Fame of the NFL, so shout out to LaDainian Tomlinson, one of the most exciting running backs to watch of all time. Moving on, next we got Mucinex, the Reuniclus, and Reuniclus was a Pokemon that I definitely saw usefulness in this matchup, as it's a bulky Psychic type. It can actually switch in on those powerful Psychic type attacks coming from Lele and Mega Alakazam, and can actually not take too much damage, especially with the investment I put in special defense. The main thing I was scared of here though was if they both carried Shadow Ball coverage. That was mainly what I was scared of, and then also being pursuit trapped by a Alolan Muck. That really scared me. So what I was thinking here was just kind of a standard Reuniclus with just Side Shock, Shadow Ball, Calm Mind, and Recover. I knew that Side Shock and Shadow Ball didn't give me any coverage for a Alolan Muck, so I knew I would certainly had to, until Alolan Muck was down, I knew that I had to play very careful with this Reuniclus so that it didn't just pursue trap us and take a huge chunk off of our health. And I knew going for a Recover once we were at a low amount of health was going to be hard to do. So I knew I had to play smart with this Reuniclus, but I definitely wanted it in this matchup, as I wanted a second answer to something that could switch into Mega Alakazam and Tapu Lele. As like I said, I thought my opponent would lean heavily on their offensive pressure. So 44 in HP. I just needed 204 in special defense with a Calm Nature to be, I think, 3-hit KO'd by Shadow Ball from I think a non-Life Orb Lele. That's pretty much what I was thinking. I think it was after I Calm Minded too. So this is pretty much the investment here, was pretty much so that if it was a Shadow Ball from Mega Alakazam or Lele, I do think Mega Alakazam Shadow Ball was a 2-hit KO though. I don't think even with this investment I would have been able to switch in on a Shadow Ball and still be able to live. So yeah, not much I could do about that. But from Lele, I do think the investment I have here allows me to be 3-hit KO'd by Shadow Ball. This game was a while back, so I'm sorry that I don't remember all I don't remember the exact calcs for some of my EV spreads, so I do apologize, but we did have this game a decent while back. It is already Sunday, and we had this game on, was it Thursday? Yeah, I think we had the game on Thursday. So yeah, it's been a good while since the game, so I don't remember all the benchmarks that these EV spreads allow us to do. But I do think it was a 3-hit KO from Shadow Ball. 116 in special attack, just so that we can still hit pretty hard, as there's a few Pokemon I still wanted to hit hard. I wanted to be able to hit the Miltank pretty hard. I wanted to be able to hit, let me look at my opponent's team actually real quickly. There's a few other Pokemon I wanted to be able to hit hard. Magnezone in particular. I really wanted to make sure that this Reuniclus could hit Magnezone hard, especially if I was able to set up Calm Minds on Magnezone. When I had my practice match, Magnezone was brought, so I saw that I definitely wanted to be able to do decent damage to Magnezone, and the Calm, and just so I could stall out Magnezone if necessary with Calm Mind, Recover, and then just going for powerful attacks. So yeah, that's pretty much what I was looking at with Reuniclus. A decent amount in defense though as well, so that I can maybe be a switch into Garchomp. This is going to be my most offensive Pokemon other than my Mega Scissor, but Mega Scissor had kind of a different role in this game. So this is kind of going to be one of my, pretty much my most defensive Pokemon. So in case Garchomp was like Bend or some wild set, I would bring Reuniclus in. Depending on what my opponent brought, Reuniclus can maybe also be a sack for me in case I thought I could win without it. And I'm trying to think. Oh, Crobat as well. I needed that defense investment in case my opponent brought Choice Banded Crobat, so I could tank a hit and then still fire back a Shy Shot. 4 in speed, just because I didn't. This actually doesn't matter at all. I just didn't want to waste the 4 EV. It would have been wasted anywhere else, so I didn't want to waste it. So I just put it in speed, but it doesn't matter at all. Next is going to be Mega Scissor. Definitely needed to bring this Pokemon, mainly because of the Alolan Muck. It's pretty much my the only Pokemon who being knocked off didn't matter. I really couldn't allow anything else to be knocked off. Typically, Landorus would have been a pretty decent switch into Alolan Muck, but you obviously saw that it's Scarf, and I need that Scarf. Definitely need that Scarf. So this had to be my switch in into Alolan Muck until it was down to a health where I thought I can just bring in something else on it and take it out. But yeah, this had to be my switch into it. Obviously the light screen makes me feel a little bit better switching into Muck as well, considering it can be Fire Blast. Not sure my opponent will make that prediction, as it is a pretty ballsy prediction. Predicted me to go into Scissor when my opponent brings out Muck, but they may do it. I could kind of see it, as I really don't want anything else to get knocked off. So just kind of a standard Scissor, but enough investment in attack so that I can OHKO a standard Alolan. I can OHKO a standard Mega Alakazam with Bullet Punch. I also wanted to hit, there's something else I wanted to hit hard. Oh, I wanted to be able to hit hard, hit Miltank hard with Bullet Punch. And if I was to get an SD up, I wanted there to be a choice, a chance for me to sweep once Tapu Lele was gone. I wanted there to be a chance to sleep. If I could get Tapu Lele gone, keep my Mega Scissor around, I want there to be a chance with Swords Dance, so I maybe just Bullet Punch to a win, as I saw somewhat of a chance for that. If Lele was gone and Magnezone was gone, I saw a somewhat chance for that. Bullet Punch just allowed me to, Swords Dance allowed me to just do a lot of damage if I needed it to. With Scissor on something, I can obviously just do a lot of damage on something and then switch out later. So that's pretty much what I was looking at. Bullet Punch, obviously, for that stab and for that priority, and for just a lot of damage with Technician. U-turn for Switch Initiative, and just to get out of a lot of situations, especially so that we don't get Magnet Pull Trap. Swords Dance, so that we can dish out a decent amount of damage and reliable recovery and roost. This investment in defense was that so that I could switch into Garchomp if necessary, and it didn't have Fire Blast, but it was mainly for the Muck. This just ensured that I could take all those hits from Muck. I think knockoff was like a 5-hit KO or something, definitely a 4-hit KO with this investment, which I really like. And 92 in speed. I can't remember what exactly this allowed me to outspeed. There's one thing. Oh, this was me speed creeping a pretty slow, well, not pretty slow, but just not a fast, not a fully speed invested Magnezone. I was looking at a Samagon set that there was a chance that there was a chance of my opponent bringing with that type of speed investment. It was like 128 in speed, and this allowed me to outspeed that Magnezone. I didn't really know exactly how much speed my opponent would bring in Magnezone if it was brought, so I just kind of went with a decent amount of investment just so that we can maybe U-turn out of there in case I did get trapped, because I took out some threat. We can U-turn out of there and get out of being trapped. So that's what I was thinking there. So there was a chance that my opponent would also bring Scarf Magnezone, which I didn't go over earlier because of that. And then next we have Sneasel, who I ended up bringing as Choice Bandit. I didn't like the idea of Scarf Sneasel. That just sounded terrible. It's I don't really like scarfing really frail Pokemon. And Sneasel's like the exact definition of a glass cannon. More so than obviously its evolution in Weavile, and yeah, it's just too much of a glass cannon, so I didn't like the idea of scarfing it just so I can maybe knock off Alakazam before it could go for an attack. I thought that really hurt the usefulness of Sneasel against everything else, and yeah, I didn't want to be locked into moves at all either. Obviously, if I went for an attack, knocked out my opponent's Mega Alakazam with Sneasel, they knew that I'd be scarfed, considering that I know he'd put enough investment to outspeed my entire team. So I went with Choice Bandit Sneasel. I knew that this would allow me to do, I could come in on Garchomp and completely obliterate it with even an Ice Shard if necessary. Choice Band Ice Shard does OHKO the most Garchomps, but Choice Band Icicle Crash doesn't give Garchomp, even with a Yachi Berry, doesn't give it any chance of living our attack. I also wanted to, I thought I didn't have the best matchup for Miltank. So that was another reason why I went with Choice Band, just in case our Mind Chow went down like early in the game or something and Miltank just started to cause us a little bit of trouble. Choice Band Brick Break would actually do an enormous amount of damage to Miltank, so that was another thing I was looking at. I wanted my knockoffs for switch outs, maybe Garchomp and stuff like that, switching out from the Sneasel. I wanted those to hit extremely hard, so that was another reason I went with Choice Band. And then yeah, it's just pretty much Choice Band to do a lot of damage, and because I didn't like Life Orb in case for chip damage, especially with the Stealth Rocks maybe going up early in the game or just going up in general. So yeah, I decided to go with Choice Band, and I don't regret it at all. 156 in speed. With a Jolly Nature allowed us to outspeed everything we could outspeed. We can't outspeed Crobat, and we can't outspeed Mega Alakazam. Those are too fast for Sneasel. So I just went with the investment of outspeeding what I could, and just going with that. Full investment and attack so that we can hit as hard as possible, and then pretty much the 92 was just dumped in defense, and then the rest was just thrown, and I didn't think I needed any more investment, the 8 more to go into defense, so I just put 4 in HP and 4 in special defense. So that's pretty much what Sneasel is going to be. And then last but not least is that Mind Shells. I knew Miltank would be brought, even though in my practice match it wasn't brought. I had such a strong feeling that Miltank would be brought, because of kind of the Pokemon that the rest of my team, the rest of my opponent's team forced me to bring. I thought he would think I wouldn't bring a fighting type for Miltank, but I made sure to bring one. That was going to be our Mind Shell, which is going to be Life Orb. I didn't really see any item that was better than Life Orb. With Regenerator, the Life Orb recoil didn't really matter to me, especially with us having Switch Initiative as well, so we'd be switching out a decent amount. So yeah, pretty much just a Jolly Nature with 236 in speed allows us to outspeed everything we could. Once again, can't outspeed Crobat or that Mega Alakazam. High jump kick so that we can hit that Miltank as hard as possible. Knock off for switch outs, U-turn just for switch initiative off, obviously, and then poison jab for Lele if we had to knock down a decent amount and just wanted to we knew we can OHKO a poison jab, maybe just go for that poison jab. And also high jump kick was for that Magnezone as well, just in case Magnezone started to be an issue or anything. And yeah, I knew high jump kick. My opponent didn't really have much switch-ins for a high jump kick. They do have 2 psychic types, but even Lele really isn't a switch-in to Mind Chow. You really have to be a really bulky Lele to feel comfortable switching in on Mind Chow. So yeah, I really did like high jump kick and Life Orb together, as it really it can be really scary for my opponent from a switching in perspective. I liked having another more switch initiative. We have 3 Pokemon with switch initiative now, which I like. And yeah, I thought Mind Shell could be really good for the late game, in case I just kind of kept it in the back the entirety of the game, so I didn't really think I'd be switching it in much. And then late game, Miltank's still around, and I just hit it with a high jump kick and hit it hard. And I also wanted to hit, in case I lost Landorus, this is pretty much my best answer for hitting a Alolan Muck hard too, as it is a dark type as well as a poison type, so that it is going to be a neutral high jump kick, and that's going to do solid damage to Muck. So just in case I needed to hit Muck hard too and I lost Landorus, high jump kick can accomplish that as well. And yeah, just 20 was dumped in defense because I just had some leftover EVs, because I only needed to invest 232 in speed to outspeed everything I needed to. So it's pretty much the team. I was thinking these 2 were going to be the MVPs of the team. So I was thinking lead with Tapu Jenny and just go for a light screen. I didn't know what my opponent might lead with. They might lead with Garchomp. Finny doesn't mind the Garchomp lead. Let's just hop right into the game and see exactly how it goes. So I'll meet you guys at the game. Alright, so here we are, guys. We are at the game. Looking at my opponent's team, they did decide to bring that Crobat. That's probably the main thing that stuck out to me. They decided to bring Crobat over Magnezone. I don't particularly agree with that play. I guess they can bring Heat Wave maybe on it, so that it can kind of be an answer for our Scissor, especially if it's really physically bulky. And I really don't have quality switch-ins to a Choice Banded Brave Bird either from Crobat, so those are 2 things that my opponent can do with Crobat. But overall, I wasn't the biggest fan of Crobat. I thought Magnezone did much more in this matchup than Crobat, so I was displeased to see it. But I was also, once I really thought about it, I was like, okay, it's actually much better than having to deal with Magnezone. So it was kind of like a happy and sad, a bittersweet moment seeing Crobat. Especially just because of that speed set. The speed stat kind of annoyed me mainly about Crobat, just affected it's just so fast, and maybe be able to pick off some of my Pokemon if they were weakened. We do see I pretty much got the rest of my opponent's team right in what exactly I thought they'd bring. They brought the Garchomp that had come. They brought both Mega Alakazam and Tapu Lele. Of course, thought those would come. They brought the Alolan Muck. for Pursuit Trap and Reuniclus and just for being an annoyance. Definitely thought that'd come. And then obviously the Miltank too, so I feel good about making sure to bring Mineshout to this battle. So like I said, I'm definitely leading with Tapu Fini. The only thing I would dislike to see as a lead is that Crobat and that Muck. Everything else, I'm not completely terrible, but I really would like to not see Mega Alakazam as a lead either, but I definitely didn't think that would be a lead. So let's just start this game up and see exactly how it goes. Alright, so I lead with my Tapu Ginny, the Tapu Fini, and my opponent leads with their Princess Leia, the Tapu Lele. And yeah, here exactly what I was thinking. I was like, alright, we're going to see right off the back what exact set this Princess Leia is. Maybe it'll just go for an attack, maybe it's Specs, maybe it's Life Orbed and just goes for the Energy Ball. We'll see exactly what it goes for. I'm just going to set up the light screen. Obviously, that was my plan. If my opponent didn't lead with something that was weak to Moonblast like Garchomp, I was definitely going for the light screen. So I go for that. Do see my opponent switching out though. Looks like they will be going into Crobat or the Muck. They do go into the Alolan Muck as I go for my light screen. So not bad. We are able to get the light screen up really early. So here I'm going into Scissor. It's a little unfortunate that I'm not Mega Evolved, so it's going to do more damage than I would like with whatever it goes for. We'll see if it makes the prediction, but fortunately we do see my opponent goes for the double switch out though, which is really interesting to me. I'm not sure what exactly he thought I was going to switch in here, but yeah, definitely the Scissor, as I don't want anything else getting knocked off. My opponent goes into the Crobat, so I'm not sure what exactly he thought I was going to switch in. Like, I don't know what me switching in would have been. I guess maybe the Mineshout, but switching in Mineshout on a Muck when it can go for a Poison Jab, which is going to do a lot of damage to, depending on its investment, is going to do a lot of damage to my Mineshout. I'm not exactly sure what he thought I was going to switch into. Maybe the Scissor. He has to have Heat Waves in. If he kind of was predicting Scissor and went into Crobat, likely has Heat Wave. So assuming that, I scout for Heat Wave, of course, just my smartest play, and I go into Crobat just to scout the Heat Wave. And I mean, I don't go into Crobat, I go into Reuniclus to scout the Crobat's Heat Wave and to just make sure that it doesn't have it. My opponent goes for Taunt though. Seeing Taunt, I thought Crobat had kind of 4-move syndrome in this game. I thought it either had Brave Bird or it had Super Fang as an offensive move, just to be able to deal damage. Thought I had one of those two. I thought it definitely had Roost for reliable recovery. And then I thought it definitely had Defog, as that's going to be my opponent's only hazard removal in this game. So it having Taunt pretty much confirmed to me in my head that it didn't have Heat Wave. So once I saw Taunt, I'm like, alright, no Heat Wave. I know that I'm safe against the Crobat. It has Taunt, I guess, for the Swords Dance, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Taunt just for Swords Dance. Anyways, though, I am taunted on my Reuniclus. My opponent switches in Muck on the Reuniclus. Me actually making that prediction, knowing he would go into that. I go right back into my Scissor. If he didn't go into the Muck, I was fine with going into Scissor here as well, because of the fact that in my brain, there's no longer Heat Wave on this Crobat. So I'm in with Scissor, and I'm like, I need to speed this game up. We got a lot of switching going on. I don't know what my opponent's really doing. I want to see a little bit more action. I think there's no Heat Wave. I go for a Swords Dance here, as we are now +2, and my opponent seems pretty keen on switching out their Muck on my Scissor. Because of the fact we do have light screen up, so I feel fine with the Fire Blast. It's going to be a 3-hit KO, I'm pretty sure, with our investment. Depending on his investment, if he had some actual special attack investment, then it would be a 2-hit KO, but I doubted that. So I was fine with going for the Swords Dance here and just trying to actually do some damage now. So I go for the Bullet Punch on my opponent's Crobat. Didn't think he would switch out. I'm able to bring it down to 9%, which shows that it does have decent defense investment to be able to live that, because we are fully invested in our attack. So it does have a decent amount of a defense investment to be able to live that. 9% though is really nice, and it means that Crobat is going to struggle to be able to roost back up that damage that it just took. Here I predict a switch into likely Miltank. Wasn't 100% sure, but I predict that there was definitely going to be a switch out. So I just go for a Roost here, as I want to get back up to a decent amount of health. Super Fang's really annoying, as it just pretty much halves you. So yeah, I go for the Roost here. Alright, and here's a pretty one of the main little plays that happens in this game. I don't think this play really mattered that much, but it definitely is something to know, and it definitely mattered to an extent, as I knew my opponent would go for some type of status here. I knew they would I knew that they likely had Thunder Wave. I knew Thunder Wave was likely something they had. I was looking at the rest of my team, and I was like, I don't want to go into Landorus and just 100% try to predict what this Miltank's going to go for. I can't 100% say it's just going to go for a Thunder Wave. I likely thought it would go for one, and I did not want anything other than Scissor getting Thunder Wave. I didn't like it on anything else. So I actually stay in and just go for the U-turn, especially also to get quality damage off on this Miltank. Miltank's pretty fast though for a defensive wall, and actually outspeeds me and misses the Thunder Wave. Thank you, Gen 6, for those Thunder Wave nerfs. I mean, Generation 7 for those Thunder Wave nerfs. That is beautiful. Thunder Wave is nerfed to where it's now a 90% accurate move, which means that it definitely will miss sometimes. And I was the beneficiary of it missing on me. Yeah, this was it was nice to see because Gen 7 had that nerf, and it's nice to see. I don't think it was that big of a deal, but it definitely was something to note, and it sucks for my opponent. But I do get a completely free U-turn, which brings his Miltank all the way down to 50%. So I do go into Mind Shell here to obviously put as much pressure on this Miltank as possible. And I didn't want to over predict and go for a U-turn and allow this Miltank to go for a milk drink here. I did say sorry to my opponent, as you can see. Well, no, you guys can't see that, but yeah. I did end up going for a high jump kick here on the switch out. Opponent does just sack their Crobat, which makes sense. But yeah, I didn't want to over predict on the Miltank and allow it to get a milk drink there, so I just went for the high jump kick. Like I said, my opponent didn't really have a switch in into this Mind Shell, especially not a high jump kick from Mind Shell, so it makes sense why he just sacked Crobat. But yeah, I really did not want Miltank to get a milk drink off, so that's why I went for that. Opponent goes right into Princess Leia, the Tapu Lele, right away. And here I'm like, okay, please don't predict my switch in into Finny and go for an energy ball. Pretty much what I was scared of. I also wanted to switch the terrain too, so I go into Tapu Jenny, and this pretty much that damage output from right there confirms to me that this well, obviously we don't see any Life Orb or anything, so we know it's not Life Orb. We know it's not Toy Specs from that damage output. So this is either a Scarf Lele or some other weird type of Lele, but it doesn't have a offensive helping item unless it's Expert Bell, which I definitely didn't think it was. So we know it doesn't have an item that's boosts its offensive capabilities. So I'm thinking that it's either Scarf here or that it's some other weird item. So anyways, I'm just going to set up my light screen again. I know that an energy ball now won't take me out because it's not any offensive item, so I go for another light screen. My opponent goes right back into that muck like they did the first time, as I set up another light screen, so I feel good. And I'm just going to go right back into Scissor. If my opponent wants to make that prediction, go for a Fire Blast, they're going to have to show it to me. But I still, in the game at this point, I still don't think they have Fire Blast. So I go into Scissor, as my opponent does go for a knockoff, so I'm glad nothing else got its item knocked off. I'm in with Scissor now. I thought my opponent might actually just show me the Fire Blast now here, since they did get some damage off, and I can't really damage Muck that much, honestly. So I actually just go for a U-turn, predicting Fire Blast or something, and I was actually going to switch into like Landorus, but my opponent actually went into Lele, and later in the game he says there he was actually predicting a Bullet Punch. I don't get why I would have went for a Bullet Punch there. Don't really agree with that play, as without the setup I can't do that much damage to Muck with Bullet Punch without the setup, so I don't really agree with that. My opponent went for it though. Here though, I didn't really want to go into anything other than Landorus. I could have went into Sneasel, but this could be a Scarf Lele, so Sneasel didn't seem the best. The only thing that's going to outspeed a Scarf Lele is my Scarf Landorus. So I decided to go into Landorus, knowing that's pretty much the only thing that can outspeed this in case it is Scarf. And I decided to just go for an EQ here. I want to just knock out Lele and be in a much better position so that there's no more Psychic Terrain going up, which is really what's making me scared and why I keep having to set up these light screens. And here is the biggest play of the game, and this is pretty much the momentum changing play of the game, is I go for an EQ here, and we have a really unfortunate play here as I crit my opponent's Miltank. And yes, that crit 100% mattered. It allowed me to do 53.7%. Without that crit, I think I did 26.8%. And if we go back a turn, yeah, let's go back. We'll go back. Let's go back. Hopefully speed this up just a tad. And alright, the Miltank will come in. It's at 56%. So, was it? Yeah, 26.8 is what I did max with an EQ without the crit. Because my opponent has leftovers, 2 of those max rolls would have taken out Miltank, but leftovers would have actually put it to where it wasn't in range for another high roll of EQ to take out Miltank. So it would have been able to Milk Drink, and I would have had to have played around this Miltank a lot more, and I thought this would have been a much lengthier battle. And there's just so much more that could have happened, so many different dynamics that could have happened in this match without this crit, because it would have meant that Miltank would have definitely been able to Milk Drink up and get back to a health to where I couldn't take it out with my Scarf Landorus. That is not Adamant. If I was Adamant, that would have been a different case, but Adamant meant I couldn't outspeed Mega Alakazam, which I really needed to do. So it's just so unfortunate this had to happen here, as my opponent already missed a T-Wave with this Miltank. So it's just, I guess it's just the opposite. My opponent named it Whitney. Usually you'd think Whitney the Miltank would be getting all the hacks, but it's actually happened the other way around. Already missed a T-Wave, and now I get this Earthquake crit on my opponent's Miltank. Really unfortunate. Once again, sorry about that, Frosty. Really do apologize. As this was game changing, because now my opponent doesn't really have a switch in to this Landorus. Garchomp's not really a switch in. Nothing's really switching. That was his defensive wall, as well as the Crobat being a switch in to EQ. I already got rid of Crobat because of a Swords Dance, a free Swords Dance, so I was able to get up, and then my opponent just ended up sacking it because I didn't really have a switch in for Mind Shell. So that's just so unfortunate that had to happen, because now Landorus is just it's pretty much free to start to run shop. My opponent goes into Cynthia the Garchomp. I don't really know what exactly they're going to do here with this Garchomp. I'm thinking just rocks or something's going to get set up. My most defensive, this can have Fire Blast, so I didn't really want to go into Scissor. Didn't really know what my opponent would do here. So I decided to just go into Reuniclus. I have 140 investment in defense, so hopefully I can tank some hit and just tank it out. Reuniclus is also my most expendable member. Now that Miltank is gone, now that means that it really opens the way for Landorus to be able to take out Alolan Muck. So I'm not as afraid of Alolan Muck here. So my opponent actually sets up a Swords Dance and then just outright OHKOs my Reuniclus. I was a little surprised with this OHKO. It meant that it's an extremely offensive Garchomp. But yeah, I was fine with just allowing my Reuniclus to go down there. There was no reason for me to try to do some over prediction and go into Finny or something there. It was just, I needed to just let Reuniclus go down. It sucks because I want Reuniclus to have good stats this season, but yeah, I needed to just let it go down there. Had to prioritize winning the game over that. And now though, the reveal of Swords Dance means that this isn't a Scarf Garchomp or anything like that. Sneasel's definitely going to outspeed and be able to OHKO this Garchomp. So I decide to just go into Sneasel here, and I just fire off a powerful, what is that move called? A powerful Icicle Crash. There's no Miltank. My opponent needed Miltank in this game. 100% needed Miltank in this game, because now my opponent doesn't really have a switch in for a Choice Bandit Icicle Crash. It's going to do even powerful damage to Muck. My opponent decides to actually just sack their Lele here. And yeah, this Icicle Crash will take out Lele. So this is going to put us up 5 to 3. Yeah, it's going to be a 5-3 lead that we have now. So we're in a solid position, and we're looking really good. This now pretty much forces my opponent to go into Mega Alakazam, Alibaba the Mega Alakazam. We do have the switch now into where you do get the speed increase as soon as you Mega Evolve first turn. So I definitely have to switch out here, and I think regular Alakazam actually outsped me either way, because Sneasel's only 115. It's really not that fast when compared to a monstrously fast Pokemon like Alibaba the Mega Alakazam. So I have to switch out here. I go into Scissor, knowing that my opponent will likely go for like a Psychic or something. I can tank anything that it goes for, and I can fire off a Bullet Punch or and maybe OHKO this Pokemon back. When it actually goes for the Dazzling Gleam, which is I didn't think he'd have that coverage, but he did end up having it. So I actually go for a Bullet Punch here, but as you guys can see right up top there, that Psychic Terrain is actually still there. So that's not going to do anything, and my opponent will just go for an HP Fire and take out my Mega Scissors. So a pretty stupid play there from me, but I really didn't have a switch in or anything for this, so I don't feel too bad about that play. But it's just, I'm still adjusting to Psychic Terrain like a lot of people, still really adjusting to it. So it's just something I'm going to have to continue to get adjusted to. Do go into Landorus though. This is my Pokemon that outspeeds and can get off damage. My opponent actually at this point still didn't realize that I was Scarf Landorus, I guess, as I thought he would maybe switch out or something. I assumed that he didn't have the investment and that U-turn would take out, but apparently he had a little bit of HP investment, he told me after this game, and that's why he lives on 3%. I didn't expect that. I thought I'd take out Mega Alakazam. He said he was even surprised he lived. So yeah, he ended up living because of that investment. Good job there. I didn't really I didn't really fully think while I was doing damage calcs for this. I didn't fully think through that my opponent might put just the necessary speed, tout speed, everything on my team, barring scarves, on his Mega Alakazam, and then he just dumped the rest into defense or HP. I didn't really consider that, so good on his part. He does live that, so now I pretty much have to sack something, and I decide to sack Tapu Fini. It also allows me to switch the terrain for later on in case this Mega Alakazam ends up being preserved. So I decided it's time to sack Tapu Jenny. Here I was thinking that my opponent may make the over prediction, and there's a chance that my opponent might just Psychic get in there and I might switch into Sneasel. So I actually sat there for a little bit, but then I was like, no, that's just dumb. No reason to switch into Sneasel there. So we'll just let Tapu Jenny go down, end up sacking it, go back into Landorus, and here I'm 100% set on, I can EQ here, but there's a chance Garchomp comes in, and if Garchomp's defensive enough, can definitely be 3-hit KO by Earthquake, take one, blah, blah, maybe dish off some damage back to us. I end up just going for the U-turn. I want to have a free switch into something else, and I end up just going into Mind Shell, thinking that now that I know that this Garchomp is in Scarf, a high jump kick is going to do very solid damage to Garchomp, especially because it's offensive too, as it showed with how much damage it did to our Reuniclus after that Swords Dance. So it's actually really good. I thought he would definitely go into Garchomp here, but he ends up going into Muck, and we have this full health Muck standing in front of us. So I'm like, yes, well, we didn't take out Miltank with this Mind Chow, but at least we'll get the damage off on Muck and get to actually use high jump kick. So I go for a high jump kick here, and Muck lives on 6%. A little unfortunate, but I didn't think he would OHKO. I definitely didn't think so. And now my opponent is going to go for a Poison Jab, take us down to 21%, as we then go for a U-turn so that I can just be in on Sneasel and definitely be faster and OHKO Garchomp as long as I don't miss the Icicle Crash. So it's pretty much what we go for to finish out this game. So into Bless the Sneasel, speed it up a little, and yeah, my opponent will go into Cynthia the Garchomp, and we will hit that Icicle Crash, and we will get a 3-0 victory against the Golden State Wartortles and FrostyAlpha, the coach. And like I said, the game-changing point of this game was definitely that crit on Miltank. Very unfortunate that had to happen. That's just Pokemon though, as you've been seeing if you guys have tuned into my other series. Crits happen a lot at inopportune times, which really does suck, but yeah, that was an extremely inopportune time. But when isn't, there's so few times that crits are not the worst time ever for them to happen. They usually do really matter, and usually just you kind of have to try to bounce back as much as you can. Fortunately though, knocking out my opponent's physical wall like that just put them in such a tight spot because of the pressure that I put on them with Sneasel and Landorus without their physical wall still there, and with the fact that Crobat was also already gone because of a play I made earlier with the SD that put Crobat into a position where it ended up having to be sacked shortly after that. So yeah, my opponent was pretty much up against the wall after that crit with Miltank, so hopefully we can have a rematch and not have a crit like that kind of shift the tide of this game so heavily, because after that I pretty much knew I was going to win after that crit on Miltank. My opponent it was very apparent that my opponent didn't have the necessary switch-ins for a lot of my Pokemon after that, and I was just able to play around things pretty well after that. I think the prep was really well on my part either way though. I do think we maybe could have, likely still could have came out on top even without that crit, but I would have much rather been able to do that instead of have the crit just change the tide so heavily. Overall though, I do think I played a little bit better. I do think I prepped really well, and unfortunately a crit changed the tide, but well, who knows, you can't think of a world in where we don't get a crit. Kind of just have to bounce back and play and try to bounce back from it. But I do think we played this one well. We did defeat the undefeated Golden State Wartortles, so we are going to be 2-1 now. We are on a 2-game winning streak. We are doing pretty well now. I'm loving my team. I'm really enjoying using my team, and I can't wait to go into the next game. We do play the Tennessee Trevenants next week. Their week 3 battle is not up yet, unfortunately, so we will hopefully their battle does get up soon. They are 0-2 now, so hopefully maybe they'll get that battle up so I can kind of see a little bit more of exactly what the Tennessee Trevenants are all about headed into that game. But hopefully we can snag that victory, especially considering that they're 0-2, and hopefully we can continue to keep this hot streak going on this wave that we're currently riding. Hopefully we can keep it going. I'll leave a link in the description to FrostyAlpha's channel. He's unfortunately busy today, but he'll have his battle up tomorrow. Definitely be on the lookout for that, guys. I will see you guys in the next MPL MPL Division 2. I almost forgot the league name. MPL Division 2 battle season 1. I'll see you in the next battle on Monday. Thank you guys for tuning in though. I'm going to peace out. See you guys. Have a good one.